Hey friends, this is Tay again with another reaction video. And today we're going to be doing a reaction on Marvel's Doctor Doom announcement from Emergency Awesome. Now, I've told you in many other videos, whenever I do reactions to Emergency Awesome, he is fantastic and usually his information is correct. So I really enjoy how he presents his video. So I just want to go ahead and get into it. And it been some issues finding Doctor Doom, not just for these new movies, but also for the past movies. Every Doctor Doom that I've seen so far in live action, not animation, live action, were terrible, just terrible. So hopefully this information is going to be some good news. I'm really hoping, because there's been some questions about Reed Richards, being played by Pascal. Now, I don't know exactly how I feel about that right now, but we can get more into it after the reaction. So let's go ahead and get started. But before we do, please like, subscribe, and share that video. And don't forget to hit that notification bell. That way you know whenever we come out with new videos, okay? All right, let's get started.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Marvel has just revealed more of their plans for Doctor Doom in the upcoming movies and how they're planning on elevating him to the same level with some of their best villains that they've done in the movies before, like Loki, for instance. A lot of them, also in the case of Loki, that you don't necessarily think of villains anymore, too, because Loki has been on multiple redemption arcs because of all the multiple versions of his character.
That's what I'm hoping they do not do with Doctor Doom. For some reason, when it comes down to Marvel's villains, they always seem to be trying to make them good guys. The only one they really didn't do that with is Thanos. That's the only one I can remember. They didn't really try to make him a good guy. They kept him as a bad guy, which I love that. But I hate it when they constantly try to make these bad guys good guys, when clearly throughout the comic books, they usually fall into the bad guy category and stay there. Maybe then they might switch up just a little bit, but they usually keep their character. They usually are still evil, And that's what I love about Wolverine. Even though Wolverine got a heart and he cares about the people that he do, he still can get violent, he still can get mean, and he don't have a problem with killing people. You know what I'm saying? So at least keep the character, consistent. That's what I'm saying. And Doctor Doom, he's power hungry. He wants more power. That's all I remember about Doctor Doom. He wants more power. He's very intelligent. And he just wants to rule. He just wants power. But this is the thing. I can't remember exactly why he wanted so much power. They usually a reason that you want so much power. I can't remember exactly why Doctor Doom always tried to get so much power. He even tried to steal power from Galactus. And that's a big feat for a human, right? Okay, but yeah, he was definitely intelligent. But I hope that they don't try to make him some sort of good guy. That would be just terrible.
Moving into Marvel Phase 6 and beyond, Doctor Doom was just one of the biggest characters that they could have used as a villain that they hadn't used yet and tried to do a couple different times. There's a lot of Doctor Doom deleted scenes from previous movies where they basically took him out of the story they were previously planning on using, so I'll explain all that too. We're in the middle of that Deadpool and Wolverine ticket giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and let me know in the comments which other movies do you want to see Doctor Doom in the next several years. One of the best things about the character is that he works in pretty much any type of movie, any type of story. Speaking of which, we saw that Doctor Doom Secret Wars comic book from real life inside the Deadpool and Wolverine trailer, like an actual book that you could go out to a comic book store and buy right now. It's Secret Wars #5 with Dr.
Now, if you don't know who Doctor Doom is, he is a major character. I mean, he's one of those bad guys that you really are intimidated with because he's so intelligent. I'll even argue he's even more intelligent than Reed Richards. And Reed Richards is considered one of the smartest men on the planet, okay? He's up there with Tony Stark and a few other ones, right? But Reed Richards is very intelligent, but I believe Doctor Doom is even smarter than he is. Or then again, Doctor Doom is willing to take more risk, but he is a big deal. It's sort of like Lex Luthor and Darkseid is when it comes to DC Comics, with Superman. They are big deals, okay? But Doctor Doom, even though he's human and even though he just have armor like Iron Man, This dude is something else. And also he dabbled in magic too as well. I mean, if I had if I had to go against him or Magneto, I'd rather go against Magneto. Because Magneto might have some type of compassion for you, right? Doctor Doom, that's a completely different situation, man. Completely.
Doctor Doom's face on the cover, it raised so many questions. Like, is this just a joke on Secret Wars? Is that why they put the comic book in the actual trailer? Since everyone's been talking about Secret Wars for years at this point. There's even another joke about Secret Wars during that Deadpool and Wolverine shut off your phones PSA that plays in front of a lot of movies in just regular
Who's he
theaters right
talking
now,
to?
too.
So I heard Secret Wars is finally going to introduce. You get reception down here?
I don't have a phone.
Or are they actually going to do God Emperor Doom like the one on the cover? We have that Fantastic Four movie, which is supposed to mostly take place in an alternate universe, which will also feature Doctor Doom. Is it the same Doctor Doom that Marvel plans to use in Secret Wars, or a...
See, when it comes, this is the reason why I think they hire the people they hire at Marvel, because the alternate universe is a way that they can play these characters any way they want to. They're not boggled down by the comic books. And I think to woo actors to come in and play these characters, they let them know, look, you don't even need to read the comic books. We're going a different route regardless. It's an alternate universe. But then you wonder what they're going to do in the future when they want to actually go by the comic books, if they ever decide to go that route. But it does make sense why they do this alternate universe. Because these actors, especially the kind of actors like these, like Pascal, they want to just be, they want to, put their own thing or on these characters. They don't want to follow the comic books. They don't want to, they just want to be weird with it, right? So that's just the way actors are, man. And if you want actors to be in it, that's the way it is. I mean, but if you look at Wesley Snipes when he played Blade, right? I think he played Blade perfectly, not only in real life, but representing the comic books. Matter of fact, I think when they started writing the comic books after that movie, they kind of like catered it to Wesley Snipes' performance. But now it's like they're just trying to invent their own thing and try something new, and they can take risks when there's an alternate universe. So, but like I say, I think that's the way to woo these actors into accepting these roles. But these days, I don't know, man. With all these bad movies coming out right now, that is a big risk because they're losing a lot of money, and I'm talking about Disney losing a lot of money. Okay, so they really need to make sure that they could get as close as possible to these characters. Even though they in an alternate universe, it doesn't mean that they still aren't these characters. You know what I mean? Okay, but who knows how they plan on playing it, man. But hopefully it'll just be good. That's what I'm hoping for.
Completely different one? Who are they going to cast as the character? Where else are we going to see him? Which other movies? We finally have some answers to a lot of this. The first actual place we're meant to see Doctor Doom is during that Fantastic Four movie next year. He'll come from that same alternate universe that they come from. Galactus in that universe is meant to be the main villain of the movie. We'll meet the whole regular team, but Franklin Richards is also supposed to be born during the events of the movie. They'll get into a lot of that really trippy Franklin Richards-Galactus relationship from the comics.
Yeah, they found the actor to play Galactus. I don't know who this actor is. I looked it up. I've never seen this guy before. I might have seen him because sometimes these guys are so good at acting that you can't remember their characters in different movies. You know what I mean? And that, I know that sounds weird, but some people can portray a character so well that you can really get lost in that character. And then when they play in another movie, all of a sudden you don't know who they are because they played this character so well you can't recognize them in other movies when they play in different characters. And I like actors like that. They're what are they called? They call character actors. I love actors like that because they can play so many roles. So I'm assuming that's the case with this guy that's playing Galactus right now. Hopefully they're not doing any DEI type stuff, but I'm hoping that this guy is perfect. So I'm sure they're gonna use some type of digital AI or something to make Galactus come to life, just like they're gonna do Ben Grimm, the Thing. They're gonna also use some kind of motion capture or something to do it as well, which is great because now if you look at it, and if they hopefully Disney gonna want to spend the money because a lot of their stuff been looking pretty cheap lately. Hopefully they'll spend good money on this because it is the first family, man. Come on. Even they said it, this is the first family. You got to put money into it. And I don't understand why they're not doing it, man. But hopefully they'll do it this time and it won't look cheesy or cheap.
It's not meant to be an origin story, so when the movie picks up, the team will have been together for a while. They'll already have their powers, and they're like the Avengers are in the MCU. In their universe, they're celebrities because of all the adventures they've had. They faced a lot of their classic villains already, including their version of Doctor Doom, who at some point in the movie will resurface and try to deal with Galactus himself as well. By the end of that movie, their team will escape their universe somehow. Either an incursion happens, or Galactus tries to destroy their world, or the TVA is going to get involved and somehow pull them out of their universe. They'll survive, eventually come to the MCU, and be the main MCU version of the team going forward, even after the big Marvel reboot during Secret Wars.
No, it's like, oh, they destroyed Secret Wars, man. I mean, they really screwed up with that. I couldn't even watch the whole thing, man. It was so embarrassing. But, there are advantages by making an alternate universe. That means they can pretty much go with a good story. It only works if they really try to make it a good movie. And lately they haven't been. They've been just trying to push messages. But if they really stick to a good story and put the money towards special effects, costumes, and everything else to come along with it, because they already got one thing I can say about these actors are they're good actors. Okay, they're good actors. Whether they fit the part or not, because you look at Halle Berry and Storm. Halle Berry is a good actress, but I hated her as Storm. I did. I hated her as Storm. I didn't think she fit the role of Storm at all. You know what I mean? And like I say, you can have good actors, but sometimes they just don't fit it. But at least I can say they are good actors. Hopefully they'll let them act and let them do the roles the way they, let them read the comic books, basically. Let them get a feel of what the character is and then try to interpret it the best way that they can to make the best character for that. And I'm hoping they do that with Galactus. I'm hoping they do that with Doctor Doom. But I still don't know yet. He haven't mentioned yet who's going to play Doctor Doom yet. So I'm hoping he got some type of information on who's going to play this particular character. There've been some names out there, but I really want to know.
They're supposed to do the same thing with their version of Doctor Doom. So their Doctor Doom will become the main Doctor Doom eventually. That's why we haven't seen Doctor Doom inside the MCU before. Even though there was all this talk about him supposed to have been in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, there's this whole subplot where he was looking for the underwater vibranium. Lake Bell's character was supposed to be called Lucia Von Barda. She was actually calling herself that character before the movie came out, but then she sort of switched tactics. It sounds like behind the scenes, they removed that part of the story. So they're like, please stop calling yourself Lucia Von Barda. Please stop saying you're from Latveria. During Moon Knight Episode 1, when he winds up in that other country, he's supposed to be in front of Doctor Doom's castle here in the backdrop. Like, there's just meant to be an Easter egg in the background. One of the many early plans for Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness is that Doctor Doom was actually going to be on the Illuminati, like that empty chair was meant to be for Doctor Doom, but in one of the versions of the movie, there was a version when it was Iron Man, and there was a version that was other characters too.
It's very rare you would see Doctor Doom in a team. I mean, it's possible, but he's one of those kind of characters that stands alone, man. It's hard for me to see him take orders from otherbody or have the same agenda as they do. So to me don't seem like a team player. Once in a while they try to do that. They tried to do it, I guess, with X-Men 97 when they had him come on there. He was working with the dude and stuff like that. But Doctor Doom usually have his own plans. So it's hard for me to imagine him as a side character or somebody just on a team or something like that.
They wound up switching the roster of the Illuminati several times when they were making that movie, but in one version it was Doctor Doom. The writer actually talked about how they baked in some of Doctor Doom's Easter eggs to the movie, and it sounds like it was because they were going to put him in the actual movie at one point.
It was a really special treat. The detail of the teleportation device he uses to get into the scene is something we took from the comics. That's Doctor Doom's time door.
Alternate self created the Illuminati.
You had to imagine in that version of the movie, in the 838 universe, Reed Richards and Doctor Doom had set their differences aside, and that's why he was using Doctor Doom's time door technology. But it's also based on quantum energy, so there's a lot of Kang Easter eggs there too. So you can kind of see some of the early plans that they had in the background that have now changed based on...
They really screwed that character up. That character was a badass in the comic books. They really screwed that character up, man. No wonder they had to get rid of it. So, I mean, maybe they'll bring it back in the future with somebody else, but they really screwed that character up, man. That's just my opinion.
Everything that's happened the last couple of years. Marvel is known for doing that all the time. Like, they change the movies all the time while they're making them, and a lot of times deleted scenes from previous movies that they won't release online will get turned into bigger plot in future movies. Now it sounds like that's basically what happened with Doctor Doom in the last several times they tried to use him in the movies. Like, let's just save him for a much bigger plan. So the fact that the Fantastic Four movie version of Doctor Doom will become the main Doctor Doom also means that he's going to be the same version during Secret Wars. Now, that doesn't mean they'll necessarily go full God Emperor Doom from the comics, but there are a lot of rumors that Marvel is developing the character as a multiversal villain, and they want to develop him the same way they did with the Loki character in the first Thor movie and the first Avengers movie.
You know what? This is the thing. When established great characters start to deal with the younger versions of the superheroes, I'm gonna use the boys as an example. In Gen V, Homelander arrived on Gen V. There was some fighting or something going on, so he flies in, he lands, he walk up to the girl and call her pretty much like an animal right up, right. Then he hits them with his X-ray, not X-ray vision, but his heat vision. Girl should be dead. She should be dead because he's not merciful like that. She should be dead, but she survived it. I don't know exactly what her powers are, but to be able to survive a freaking heat ray from freaking Homelander, come on, man. And somehow it just seemed mismatched. You know what I mean? It was cool to see him there and the way he acted. They really didn't change his character that much to make him nice or anything like that. But it just seemed weird. And when they try to establish all these cool characters like Doctor Doom and Galactus and things of that sort, but then they're gonna put them with these wimpy soy boys and these feminist girls. It's just like a mismatch. It just doesn't work. I just finished watching House of the Dragons, and they had I saw season 1 when they had young actors playing those characters, and I watched the first episode, loved it, and I love the actors that they get. They really go through the trouble of getting great actors to play these roles when it comes down to Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. That's why I enjoy it so much. I always love great actors. Anthony Hopkins, all these people, I always love that, because that what to me is like. It's like the secret sauce of a good movie, man, to have great actors playing characters, okay? But you got to make sure that they fit the characters, though, first. But still, sometimes they come out with some great stuff. Charlie Cox playing Daredevil, superb when you got the right people. But lately, they just been getting a bunch of people just to fit a box. And you telling me you want them to interact with really established actors that playing really legendary characters like Doctor Doom? It's just gonna seem like to me like a mismatch. I'm not exactly sure how they're gonna pull that one off.
Where essentially he starts out as a mid-boss, like a relatively big boss on a lower level, then is elevated to a much, much more powerful villain, leaving the opportunity for him after Secret Wars, into this big Marvel reboot, to get his own redemption arc, or continue to be a villain, or flip-flop back and forth in future movies into Marvel Phase 7, because Loki's also done that himself too. Like, in the grand sense, he's been on a redemption arc, but he also did bad things as he was on that redemption arc. Part of the other big thing going forward after Secret Wars Marvel Phase 7 is we're heading into more core X-Men saga, like we call it the Mutant Saga, focusing more on characters that are totally fresh and new to Marvel in the MCU just in general. Honestly, I think this...
Look, that's what I'm saying. I like the fact that Loki was on a redemption type situation, man. But they still should have kept him with his evilness still, too. That's the part I didn't like, when they could have kept him really still evil. He's still killing people. He's still doing what he does, you know. But, you know, nobody's perfect. Even people that try to, you know, to come out of jail and they try to change their lives, they still got the same certain type of habits. They still do certain type of things. They try to avoid getting locked up again. That's usually the case. And they tend to want to genuinely change. Only real change you can really have is through Christ. But other than that, I'm just saying that they go too far and take these people out of their character completely. And that's the thing about Loki. It was like all of a sudden he's the worst of the worst, and then you're going to make him the best of the best. After that, I mean, it's too far for me to even accept. But you cannot do that with Dr. Doom. You can't do that, man, because look, even if he seemed like he's working with you, he's not. Okay? That's Dr. Doom right there. He is so intelligent. He is so charismatic. Yeah, definitely you got to find an actor to play him that's charismatic, right? Just like the guy that do the voice for Magneto in X-Men 97. Perfect, perfect. You got to get somebody really charismatic to play Doctor Doom. And I think that's what was lacking in the past Doctor Dooms. The actors that they got weren't charismatic. They didn't fit the really intelligent in the presence of Doctor Doom. You know what I mean? Hopefully, I doubt if they can find anybody like that, but hopefully they can find somebody to fit that character. And they have to be somebody. It has to be somebody mature. Got to be somebody in their mid-30s or something like that. And probably from Ireland or some other country, not the United States, to play this character. Okay, some European country, because I think he's from what's the name of that country he's from? I forgot the name of it. They just mentioned it, and I forgot the name already. But I think he's from another country anyway. So they really need to improve on their bad guys, because it's a hit and miss when it comes down to Disney's bad guys, especially Marvel's. Because everybody complaint is that Marvel have the hardest time finding good Batman, and without a good Batman, the movie doesn't work as well. Okay, and Thanos was perfect. Thanos was perfect. Loki was perfect, and until you start making him a little bit too soft. But you really got to make a good bad guy. And you would think many times fans have complained about this, that they would literally try to find a bad guy, a good one. But then from what I hear of the Marvels, that bad guy was terrible. So it's like they don't want to even listen to that. It's a terrible thing, man. And I'm afraid they're gonna mess up him. They're gonna mess up Galactus. They already made what's his name? Silver Surfer a female now. I like the actress. I'm not even gonna lie. And this is an alternate universe. So that's the only reason why I'd even accepted it. I like the actress. So hopefully it'll be something interesting.
This is a smart move for Marvel. Like, they're pivoting away from the characters that they've been dealing with for like the last 10 to almost 20 years by the time we get there, because remember, Secret Wars is still a couple years away. Less focus on the Avengers, more focus on the X-Men, for instance. That's why you've been seeing all the mutant saga talk the last couple of years. The MCU going forward after Secret Wars post-reboot resembling more like the world of X-Men 97 in the 90s universe, where Avengers and X-Men both exist and interact with each other all the time. Not always friendly either. Doctor Doom as a character works in any kind of story in this situation. Like, he works in Avengers movies as a villain, X-Men movies, more tech-based Iron Man types of movies, because he's a man of technology and a man of magic, so he also works in the magic and supernatural-based movies too.
You can't defeat Doctor Doom. You can pause his plans. You can make it inconvenient for Doctor Doom, but you can't fully defeat Doctor Doom, because usually when he's looking to do something, he's going to eventually figure out a way to do it. You might foil his plans a little bit here and there, but most of the time he's figuring something out. And he never walks into the situation unless he's completely prepared. You really got to have a love for Doctor Doom, and hopefully the person that picks the character of Doctor Doom, the casting director or whatever, picks the Doctor Doom, they understand his character. And I think that's the problem. They just throw these characters in there and just hope make him a bad guy. You got to act bad, okay? Act bad, and that's good enough. Act bad. And Doctor Doom got so many layers when it comes to him. So many. So you, like I say, man, you really have to understand. And that's the problem with Disney these days and Marvel. They don't want to understand, or they reject the characters in the comic books. And these people write these great and amazing stories for these comic books and novels, man, and they just completely ignore it. They'll steal stuff from it. Little ideas. But then they just change the character altogether, and it just ruins everything.
Speaking of which, the other major place Doctor Doom is supposed to appear after the Fantastic Four, but before Secret Wars, is in Doctor Strange 3. A lot of you also probably predicted this early on when they started talking about doing Doctor Doom at some point. Like, you know what? He should be in a Doctor Strange movie. That would be badass.
Yeah.
And it's all because Doctor Strange 3 is currently supposed to be one of the last movies before Secret Wars goes down. Based on that post-credit scene from Multiverse of Madness, it seems like they're going to adapt part of the Time Runs Out storyline, and Doctor Doom is a huge part of that with Doctor Strange.
I would think that I would love to see a standalone Doctor Doom movie. That they should, give him even though Fantastic Four is not an origin movie, they should make an origin movie for Doctor Doom before it comes out and make it good. Get some good writers. You know, people like that did Battlestar Galactica, those types. People that are involved in Game of Thrones or something like that. This guy would be perfect. That's what I loved about him. He fits so well in Game of Thrones. You can see Doctor Doom with dragons and people with swords and things of that sort. He would fit in perfectly with that, man. And they should make an origin story. Not saying that it had to be way back in those days, but kind of similar to that. The way he grew up. You know what I'm saying? With hierarchies and all these other things, right? And learning to talk and learning his education and doing all this kind of stuff, inventing things. Just make him really, really good. I hated what they did with Kang. It was terrible. It was just terrible. It was terrible. I can't stress how terrible that was. Terrible. And I think that with Doctor Doom, because he's such an important character, so many comic book readers and people that love these characters, I think they should be respectful and give this man his own. You could do it on the streaming service. I don't need it to be in the theaters. You can do it on the streaming services, but put money to it and build this character up. And then, just like you did Thanos, they didn't bring Thanos out like that. They showed him here and there and built them up, and then he finally did it. And they should do the same thing with Doctor Doom, and even with Galactus. Give us some backstories of these guys, man. These are legendary bad guys, legendary villains, man. You need to really do them justice.
Basically explains how he goes from being normal Doctor Doom, like regular villain, to becoming God Emperor Doom and the main villain of comic book Secret Wars. There's been a lot of talk about the way Marvel has changed their plans for Avengers 5 and Avengers 6 over the past couple of years. There was a big retreat that they went on, like a story retreat they typically do on a regular basis, year to year, planning the next couple of movies they haven't talked about yet. The last big one they went on was supposedly after Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumania tanked. And even before Jonathan Majors ran into all of his legal problems, they talked about pivoting away from all their Kang plans. Like they had all this Kang Dynasty stuff that they were working on for Avengers 5. The Council.
I'm glad. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm glad it fell apart. Many people probably were disappointed, hoping it would be better, but I'm glad it fell apart. I didn't feel like Majors was the best person for that role. Not saying that a black person couldn't have done the role. I just don't feel like Majors was a good enough actor, charismatic enough to play that role. And I was right. I was right. I didn't say that before. I was trying to be optimistic about the whole thing, but like many of us, we were disappointed, especially when he played that wimpy Kane guy. It was terrible, terrible. But like I say, I hope they don't do the same thing with Doctor Doom. I really do.
Of Kangs, they were going to be huge, and they were going to carry forward into Secret Wars. At the time, during the Marvel story retreat, they actually talked about pivoting to Doctor Doom as an overarching villain for Secret Wars. Previously, it sounds like what they planned on doing, like assuming that Jonathan Majors had not gotten it.
No, this is how I feel about the whole thing, right? I loved her too, man. I thought she was a great character. Even though a lot of people was mad that they brought a woman onto this thing, but I did like her character, though. When it comes down to these characters that you love, it's sort of like handing $1 million to a fool. Okay, somebody that have a drug problem and a gambling problem. Let me just give you $2,000, $5,000, and expect you to be wise with that. And that's how I feel like when it comes down to characters like Galactus and Doctor Doom. I feel like that they're gonna hand these characters over to fools. That's what I feel like, cause that's all they've been doing lately. Just handing all these amazing established characters to a bunch of idiots. Yeah, let me get somebody important like Kang and hand it over not only to an actor that doesn't fit the character, but also let people write for it too as well. Come up with all this ridiculous stuff based on the fact that he's black. Cause you saw the Egypt and they've been putting him in a growing up in a ghetto and all this other stuff, man. Cause they definitely had to touch on the fact that he was black instead of just building on the character in a different way. You know what I'm saying? Handing a fortune to a fool, and that's what they do. That's what Feige. I keep forgetting his name. I don't know why I keep forgetting his name, but that's what Feige seemed to be doing lately, handing over something. I was watching reaction to Captain America. You know, the elevator scene with Chris Evans I thought he was a perfect Captain America, and he played it perfectly, perfectly. And so Tony Stark too, right? I thought that was a perfect cast for that. But then after that, man, Feige was like, you know what? I'm gonna start handing over these incredible established characters to idiots because I'm trying to push out this message. It's heartbreaking. Let me just go ahead and give $1 million to a drug addict.
In trouble, and they proceeded with their original plans. Is the Council of Kangs would have fought the main version of the Avengers in the 616 universe, like the main MCU during Avengers 5, but then a Beyonder type of character would have surfaced and killed the Council of Kangs. And the rumor is that, at least at the time, their first plan was that Beyonder character would have been another Kang variant, probably the one that seemingly died during Ant-Man the Wasp: Quantumania. They would just explain that he survived somehow and was enacting his revenge on the Council of Kangs, because that was his whole trip during that movie, is that he wanted to kill the Council of Kangs. That was what he was going to do the minute he escaped. He winds up collapsing the rest of the multiverse into a single battle world and ruling over it as God Emperor, like the more recent version of Secret Wars combined with the classic 80s version of Secret Wars. A couple of the Marvel heroes wind up surviving along with other heroes from the multiverse, and this is how you bring in X-Men, Fantastic Four from the Fox Marvel movies, like you bring Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, basically like all the other characters from the multiverse you would want to put on a multiverse Avengers team. Doctor Strange was going to put that team together. They would fight and defeat this other Beyonder variant and then restore the multiverse. Sort of like the ending of the more recent Secret Wars story. But then they had all their issues with Jonathan Majors. They wound up firing the actor. They're going to recast the Kang character so that they can wrap up that Kang Council of Kangs storyline. It sounds like a version of that will still happen during Avengers.
I feel like they should just abandon that, man. Just abandon it. You know what I mean? They screwed it up. You know, let a few years pass by, bring a new character. Hopefully people will forget about Jonathan Majors, Kang, man. And they was gonna pay this dude a lot of money for this. I'm like, look, I like Jonathan Majors. I don't even want to give the impression that I don't like this guy. He just didn't fit that role. Just like Halle Berry did not fit Storm. And that was supposed to be a black character. I'm thinking they trying now to get a more accurate Storm now. Somebody from Nigeria or one of those countries she's from in Africa. And hopefully they'll do it. I think they should get a model type, tall woman who's, you know, really stands out. Because Storm is not a mediocre character, just like Doom is not. Certain characters you got to stand out, and Majors could not accomplish that. He couldn't bring out the true nature of Kang. You know what I mean? Like Ian McKellen. I believe, I keep saying the name wrong, that played Magneto in the original X-Men, right? He was able to bring out the essence of Dr. Doom. They probably dropped on him, look, you are this, that. He went through this. He was Jewish. He went through all this kind of stuff. He's trying to fight for mutant rights and things of that sort. And he probably put it together. He probably didn't even need to read a comic book. He probably just needed the basics, and he was able to pull it off well. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of these actors these days, they need a lot of information. And they need experience with actors. I don't care about the Miss Marvel and a lot of these younger people playing superheroes. You really don't need to get that deep with them because they're young. So they can just play teenagers or whatever, right? But when it comes down to these major characters, Silver Surfer, Doctor Doom, Galactus, Kane, the Beyonder, all these characters, you really need to find somebody really good to play it. But then maybe that's the problem. Nobody want to play it, especially with what's going on with Marvel these days, that they just screwing everything up. Now it's going to even be harder to find people, you know? But you can find them, though, because a lot of them are just character actors. You don't need to have an award-winning actor. Find a good character actor to play this role. And I'm sure they would kill it, man. They would kill it.
Avengers 5, but they're going with a slightly more grounded story, like less multiverse, more grounded, then treating Secret Wars like a completely separate type of movie, like totally separate threat. But that movie still largely being a lot like the more recent Secret Wars combined with the classic 80s Secret Wars.
Now, if you notice that, right, if we go back to that, where they, what was he doing? When you putting on all that, You notice that and stuff, right? Because they did that on that Batman movie. I think it was George Clooney's Batman, I believe, right? It might have been when he was putting on all the gear. They showed his butt and his nibbles and all that. It was so ridiculous. Now, the Batman movies wasn't meant to be completely serious. They meant it to be a little silly, a little comedic. So, but they took it too campy, man, when they did that. I was thinking, who's doing this? And I think that's the reason why he doing it that way, showing his butt and all this stuff, man. Now, this is perfect for a movie like this, okay? Then it makes sense.
The more recent Secret Wars combined with the classic 80s Secret Wars, but giving them an opportunity to do a completely separate type of villain if they wanted to. That basically leaves them an opportunity to do a version of God Emperor Doom, but just because they use that joke during the Deadpool and Wolverine trailer, I'm really thinking that they're probably not going to do it exactly like God Emperor Doom from the comics. That would be kind of weird for them to call their shot Babe Ruth style in the Deadpool and Wolverine trailer. Typically when you hear Deadpool joking about something, it means that they're not going to do it. Everybody let me know in the comments too, are you happy that they actually removed Doctor Doom from a lot of the previous movies, like all these deleted scenes that I talked about during the video?
I can answer that right now, yes. I'm glad, this is the best part about this. I'm glad they failed before they put somebody like Doctor Doom or something in one of these movies. They screwed up with Galactus, but I'm glad it happened the way it did because they used him as a cloud, which was crazy. I don't know, I guess they ran out of the budget or something, right? But I'm glad that they weren't able to use Doctor Doom. I'm glad. Because that's too important character. I mean, he's, to me, in my opinion, he's one of the most important characters in Marvel history. And I don't care as a villain or compared to a good guy or whatever, he's one of the most important characters out there. And I doubt if I can find too many comic book readers that would disagree with that. That guy is important. And for Feige just to put just anybody into that position will be a complete failure. And they just don't give a crap about Marvel. They don't give a crap about Disney. They're really trying to destroy Disney. If they find a crappy character to play that, man, it's going to be ridiculous. One thing I didn't love, I like the Fox X-Men. There was some things about it I wish they changed. But one thing they did, mostly they found great characters for the main guys. And that was Charles Xavier and Doctor Doom Eric. They were perfect. And you got to go there when it comes down to these villains, man. You got to. But we talking about this Disney. Disney. They probably gonna make him some guy, and I was about to say something, man, but I'm gonna go ahead and leave it alone. They're gonna just pick somebody based off their identity or something like that. Other than the fact of just making him a straight white male from another country or whatever, right? They're just gonna just change it all together. It's heartbreaking, just like they did Reed Richards. But some things you just gotta accept. If they can make a good movie out of it, you know me, man. If they can make a good movie, I'll watch it. I'll try to watch it, hopefully. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end the video here. I'm definitely gonna leave the link below. That way you can watch it uninterrupted. And because sometimes some people just don't want to hear people talking during these videos. But I love it. And when I run my mouth like this, it's because I'm loving the material that I'm reacting to. And if it wasn't, I know Emergency Awesome is great at this. He helps say a lot of things, and he triggers things in your head that you want to make comments about. Because this guy, you can tell he's a real comic book reader, past, present, whatever. He understands the characters, and that would make it click. Because it clicks for me. Because I can forget a lot of things about the comic books. Okay, because I'm getting older now. I really don't read the comic books like that anymore. But when I talk to other people that know these characters and we talk about it, things come to mind for me. And I start remembering things. And I find that amazing. That's why I love talking to people about comic books and things like that. So, because then I start to remember certain things. And that's why I love doing reaction to Emergency Awesome. I think he's amazing. He's great. Definitely like his video. Definitely subscribe to his channel. He's amazing. All right. I really appreciate all of you coming by. Thanks again. This is T. And peace.